All right, let's get started. Good afternoon. This is Ifan from the Strategic Day Trader, and this is your market wrap for February 13th, 2020. Qs basically flat, did have a gap down, but recovered from it. And then Qs down 0.13, essentially flat as well. Gap down did recover, did make new highs there. Okay, on the Qs and SPY. Coming into today, the expectation was bullish, okay, expecting sell-offs to get bought, okay. So what we are going to be looking forward to going into tomorrow is looking for us to potentially break. If we break underneath today's low that was supported, neutral bias in the short term. Now, weekly, monthly are all still going to be bullish. Okay, unless we get some big gap down, some big unexpected gap down, then we're going to be looking at, still pretty impressive uptrend. It is getting up there, of course, but, it doesn't mean that we get to necessarily just kind of short on a whim there, right? So, underneath today's low, we're going to be going to a neutral bias. We'll need to see follow through. If we get follow through, we can look for the next sell setup or the base breakdown to initiate some kind of short-term bearish bias. Okay, so right now, still bullish. If we get underneath today's low, more neutral in the short term. All right. The last time we had a very similar situation was on going into the end of last week. And I was saying if we get underneath these bottoming tails, neutral, if we show follow through the next setup, we could potentially look as a bearish setup, as a shortable opportunity. And what happened? Broke below it and then just went right back up because we were going right into support, as we will be if we break underneath today's low. So what we would have to see is if we do start to move lower, we break underneath today's low, we would need to see some significant follow through, and then we can start talking about the next setup, right, as a shortable opportunity. So we're not quite there yet. I'm anticipating, tomorrow we're going to remain bullish until we get underneath today's low. Okay. All right. So that's going to be the same for the Qs and the SPY here. Let's see if this will get us back to where. Okay. All right, let's go over today's plays. No calls from me this morning at all. No plays from me this morning. I thought this morning we had some decent looking gaps, but didn't really get a lot of nice setups. Okay, I mean, things moved. I did like the KHC gap a lot, but it moved a lot. I didn't see a good entry point on that one. The INTAP got bought right away. I was only looking for this as a short, so it never set up and showed a lot of strength at the right off the open, so it wasn't going to be a play. CTL also got going right off the open, so I didn't get a setup. So there was a lot of kind of trying and waiting and trying to get a setup here in the morning. And so it ended up being kind of a nothing morning for me. There wasn't really much to do. But coming into the afternoon, I thought things kind of settled down and kind of similar to yesterday, right? Yesterday, there was only one call from me, and then into the afternoon ended up being the best play of the day here on this IPG breakout. Right, and so today I didn't really see a whole lot at the open, although there was a lot to watch. It wasn't like there weren't gaps or there weren't, things to watch. It was just the setups weren't problem free, and a lot of things were really, really spready. I did like the EFX a lot that James put out, but that was also very, very spready on the breakout here, so I passed on it. But ended up being a nice play there from Sammy in the afternoon here off of this 15-minute to retest up at the highs. That was good. He also had a call on the AIG short at underneath this sell setup, and even had a secondary entry there. That was huge, that AIG. And this is a gap berry, right? As some of you may recognize. Look at the size of that bar on the gap berry. Huge bar there. Very nice short there. And then the call from me was the PS here on this gap down. I'm going to go ahead and remove this. And let's see if we can get this out of here. Okay, got it. All right, and here was the call on the PS here in the afternoon. So it took a lot of patience, and then kind of, have to stay focused and not give up on the day, not, write it off. And so here was the base that I was looking at the end of the day here. All right, just basing here near the lows, not quite through it. One thing that I really liked about it was not only the gap had shock value, Qs were very, very strong, and the PS was basing at the lows. Okay, so relative strength here, basing at the lows. Okay, and so we did get to target one here. We did trail half. You can see 1870, right? We got right into the, I think 1871 at the time. We did live through this pullback, which was, a little bit, maybe the only kind of like painful part of this play, and then took the last bit here at the end of the day. So, that's the reason I'm coming on just like shortly after the close here, because we did have to manage this position here all the way until the final minute here. So I did tell the room to go ahead and close that out right here. So just kind of back to target one and closing out here. So, same thing last couple of days where I thought the afternoons were a little bit easier, or at least the setups were there in the afternoon in comparison to the morning, despite there being a lot of gaps and a lot of pretty decent gaps. And that doesn't mean that necessarily tomorrow will be the same. Really, I think it just says to me that, we kind of just have to stay focused and, don't have to necessarily rush or push it or force it if nothing's there in the morning, because, sometimes things set up a little bit better in the afternoon. And there will be days where there's not a whole lot in the morning or the afternoon, right? And so I think it's kind of a little bit of our responsibility to kind of like be mature, not settle for lower quality plays just because we want to play a play in the morning or to rush. Now, if you had a really nice morning and your setups were there, then then that's great, right? Then go ahead and the setups are there, the plays are there, go ahead and take them. It's going to vary depending on what you're looking for, what kind of entry patterns, kind of strategies you're trying to execute, right? But for me, for the last couple of days, despite the amount of things to look at the open, the amount of gaps that I think were decent to be played, long or short, that there wasn't that a lot of setups, and so kind of had to be kind of careful through the morning and then find something to do in the afternoon, or let things set up in the afternoon. So that was been the case for me, so that's why I'm reviewing the day as it was for me. Hopefully you're able to take advantage of some of these. Really nice move on the AIG, EFX, and the PS here this afternoon. And so if you kind of were frustrated by the morning or didn't have a lot to do, there were some things to pick from here in the afternoon, which is not always the case. Typically most of the trading gets done in the morning. Consistently, that's the case for me as well. Most of my plays happen in the first hour and a half. But just, it's just been the case for the last couple of days, which is why, the room is open from open to close, why we continue to scan, because of days like this where we can still, make something of even the afternoons. Okay. So, as long as you know what you're looking for, you just want to keep in mind to stay kind of picky and choosy about, is the setup qualifying for what you're looking for, right? And so, and sometimes, and leaves you with maybe not as much activity as you'd like, but, it's better than taking low quality setups, having them not work or mismanaging them because that it's kind of not good enough to play, right? Okay, so we'll be back at it tomorrow to close out the week. Like I said, on the Qs and SPY, bullish. If we take out today's low, going to be neutral. If we get follow through, then we can start to talk about short. My goal here is not to make a name for myself by being the person to call the top. And, I know that I'm not, if we kind of top out unceremoniously without a blow off top, without a giant gap down or something like that, I may miss the top, and that's completely fine with me. It's the kind of thing that I see mentioned every other day, like I said, where someone's saying, oh, this is the top, and I hear it every other day. And, and my response to that is it could be, Okay, but if I'm gonna follow the trend here, and either we get some kind of, buying that resembles capitulation, or we get some damaging gap down, this is a sustainable uptrend. I think if there's any question to what does a sustainable uptrend look like, we don't have it. It doesn't really get much of a better example than what we've got here. Now, we probably should get a short-term pullback sometime soon, right? That's expected, and these kind of short-term downtrends, if we get one, we'll see it on the hourly, right? We'll see that the hourly trend will break, and then see what kind of pullback we get on the larger time frames. Okay, so that's going to be the same consistent approach going into tomorrow and next week. All right. Hope you had a good trading day. We'll be back at it tomorrow, and I will talk to you then. Have a good evening.